Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
I'm Aaron. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
How you feeling this evening, Aaron?
A little tired, a little better than yesterday. So for everyone listening, sorry we're a day behind. I got the second COVID vaccine shot on Tuesday. And Wednesday, my body was in the dumpster basically the entire day with all the fun side effects from the vaccine. So
in the dumpster like Cloud9.
Exactly. I'm all chipped up now though, so just waiting for that Bill Microsoft update to come through, and I'll be half.
And then you can just start surfing the web right behind your eyes.
Exactly.
Right. So, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm excited about it. I mean,
hell yeah, man.
It'll make the pod much easier. I'll be a guy on the internet without even having to type.
Right. And then you can just beam the pod to the internet.
Exactly. Just load it straight up.
No clicks needed, actually.
So yeah, I'm doing much better today. Happy to still be able to get an episode in, but how are you doing, man?
Hell yeah. I'm well, first of all, glad to hear. I'm glad that you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I have to say I'm angry. The last couple days I've noticed like increased levels of frustration, and I think it's because I'm letting my like daily meditation, I'm letting that kind of slip. I'm like getting kind of lazy with it, so I'm not going into the day as zen as I could be. I've had some not so some not so proud moments recently of getting a bit frustrated, and I don't like that. So that's to be noted, and that's kind of how I'm feeling this week.
Well, on the bright side, you are conscious of it, so that's a good thing. I think, well, I've been kind of road ragey lately, but like I'm driving by myself, so like I just kind of scream at people in the car. Right. Not like scream, but like get mad.
Now, do you make yourself laugh with your like outbursts?
No.
Gotcha.
No, okay. I have to like reel it in just because. So I've been driving since I've been moving around to some different locations for work. I've been taking like some new ways to work for my drive, and it just happens that a couple of the spots on my drive to and from work are like weird merges where people are constantly in the wrong lane and then just like cutting people off last second. And that's one of my big pet peeves with driving is like people like intentionally going in the wrong lane, and it'll be like a left turn only lane, and then they'll just like blow through it and just go straight and almost hit people, which has also happened to me. And that's when I like am legitimately have a reason to be upset. But then there's the times that like I see them doing it and it doesn't really affect me other than slowing me down by like 30 seconds or whatever, or like making me miss a light, but it just irritates me because I know that they're doing it on purpose. Like they're not roads that people just like stumble upon or like, oh, I've never really driven on this before. It's like a lot of people just actively, intentionally drive the wrong way to like save themselves time. And that's right. It's just rude to me and it irritates me. So that's like, I think why I've been a little bit more road ragey lately.
Well, there you go. It's not carpooling in the carpool lane.
Exactly.
Yep, that's what it is, man. That's what it is. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling this week. However, we had a great race this past weekend. We have League of Legends games this weekend. They started today, actually. So a lot to look forward to. A lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. And another thing that we can look forward to, which I mentioned just before we got started, we've got a J. Cole album release date coming up here shortly. Pretty excited about it. J. Cole is definitely up there on my artists. Really solid albums that he typically puts together, very cohesive. And a pretty good storyteller. So I'm curious to see what he's got coming. Album is titled The Off Season, and it's coming out in just over a week on May 14th. So next Friday.
I think the one thing I really like about J. Cole is how he has a bit of like a mentor's mentality for the younger generation of artists coming up behind him. And while some of his takes may be a bit like harsh, I think they're well founded, honestly. And it's nice to see a young gentleman taking time out to maybe try and correct on some of the things going on in hip hop currently. So I like that he has a voice of, I like that he has a voice for change, basically, I think is what I'm getting at. Like I remember the, 1985, The Fall Off on his last album. I thought that was hilarious and just right on point. So yeah, looking forward to another J. Cole release.
Yeah, well, and I think that kind of speaks to like how we've talked about like Jay-Z in the past with how slightly different. I would say J. Cole is more in terms of like how you carry yourself, how you're acting, and things like that. And Jay-Z's a bit more of the like mentorship on like the business side, like how to get yourself to a good spot and kind of take care of yourself in that sense. So similar like teaching and whatnot, just a little bit different class, I guess.
Right. Jay-Z will teach you how to go from a 4 to an 8 to a 16 to a 32.
There you go.
Those who know.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. But yeah, J. Cole music coming in hot. And Aaron, tell them because you made me so excited.
Oh, yes. So I know someone who works for a music company, which I have some info that Kendrick is still going to be coming out with an album. Don't know when. It is still in the works, but the pandemic has slowed things, which I think we had kind of assumed after we had seen the pictures of him potentially filming a music video a little ways back.
That was way back.
That was like this
too.
past summer. That was like at least 7 months ago or something. I feel like maybe longer.
That was first pandem summer. Yeah. We're going into the second pandem summer.
Exactly. So that was something we've been looking forward to. So it's don't know when, but it is kind of out on the horizon somewhere. So looking forward to that for sure.
Most definitely. Now I saw an interesting take from music's the internet's busiest music nerd. I saw an interesting take from him.
Melonhead.
Yeah, that guy. Dance-thony can tan me.
Whatever.
I don't know if that was a good one.
This week.
Yeah. Really funny bit, by the way. I love that. Like an easy to rhyme name and like running with it. I think that's funny.
It's like when people make fun of Benedict Cumberbatch's name.
Yeah.
And they're Bendeldy, like whatever.
Bendy Dick Cumner Snatch. That's my fun. That's the best one.
That is the best one.
That is the good shit. I could see you avoiding it, so I said I'll say it.
I was trying to come up with one of the other ones off the top of my head, but that was just stuck there because it's the best one. So,
Nice
But
try.
yeah, so dance in the Cantano, is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah, and his take was that Kendrick can't top To Pimp a Butterfly. What do you think about
Oh,
that?
um, depends how you're looking at it. Obviously, it's a very subjective take.
Sure.
But I think he is capable of it, and I think in today's world, political climate, the different things that are going on, and have been going on for the past few years in the U.S. It's, I mean, on the news very frequently, like the different racial tensions. I think that he has the ability to, but the amount of time and kind of thought and really how deep he went with To Pimp a Butterfly was, it's going to be tough to beat. I mean, he visited Nelson Mandela's cell in South Africa. Like, he did a lot of soul searching and kind of like reflection and things like that for it. So, I mean, the album itself, I think, was really, really well done, put together, and then sonically and musically was very good as well. So, like, when you kind of hit so many pieces of it, the only thing that I think he could really improve on is the like replay ability, which there are still a bunch of songs on that album that I'll still go back and listen to and everything, but not as many I'd say that are on like my daily playlist and all. But that's not
Sure.
really, I don't think, what Kendrick typically strives for. That's kind of
Right.
a Drake thing. So like,
Well, and I think they are a bit mutually exclusive. Like the heavier topic music and songs, I don't gravitate to often because most of the time they hit so hard that one listen, you got the message.
puts you in kind of
Um,
a different mindset, which may not be what you're looking for driving to work or like,
right,
yeah.
right.
So
So yeah, I think it could be. I think that's an interesting take, and you're right. It hard to top, definitely. Could he do it? Sure. I think you're right though. It's very very subjective to do. I just thought that was like a really interesting. And he argued the point pretty well.
yeah,
Yeah, he's always good for a music conversation.
so he put out a video on that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'll have to check it out because I'm curious to see what his different points are, and kind of how he looks at it compared to like my initial thoughts. Um, because yeah, just off the top of my head, I can agree in some senses, but I do believe in Kendrick in terms of his ability to continue to impress, and kind
But I
of.
think what's interesting though is we didn't bring up Damn. So obviously we don't think Damn topped it.
No, I don't think
Right.
so. And I do really like Damn, and there were a lot of solid features on it. Like, he brought in a lot of really good artists and everything on that album as well. Um, but personally, I mean, I still think like Good Kid, Mad City was better than Damn. And maybe even Section 8. I love Section 80. I'm like a huge fan of that album. So personally, I might put Section 80 above Damn, even though the production itself is not as like high quality. The actual
Right.
like music and all, I really like. But it's so hard because I do enjoy all of the music he's put out. So comparing them is like, it's like picking your
Yeah.
favorite kid, man.
Sure. It's like an act in futility. You're just like it's all kind of whatever. they'd be within like slivers of each other, and you're just like splitting hairs. I think is
exactly
the phrase. Sure.
So, but yeah, I do think To Pimp a Butterfly was better than Damn.
Although with less replayability.
Exactly.
Now we're getting somewhere. That's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. Whenever something comes out, I hope that I get a little heads up. But looking forward to that whenever it is coming down the pipeline, and I'll have to check out Melonhead's video.
Melonhead. Canthony Scantano. Yeah, man. J. Cole, Kendrick music coming at you hopefully very soon. Yeah, definitely excited for that.
J. Cole for sure very soon. So
talk to me about this past weekend's race. I know different teams have different strategies. Haas being a team that's not going to develop their car. What did we hear?
Yeah, so there was a statement from Helmut Marko with Red Bull Racing. He is, I think they're like director of racing or something to that effect. I'm not sure his exact title. But he said that Red Bull is not going to focus on their 2022 car yet. They are going to continue putting work in on their 2021 car because they can't, quote unquote, can't do that to Max. And they really, he said, we can't do that to Max now that he has a car for the first time with which he can become a world champion. So they really think that they can do what is needed to get the Red Bull car and Max to be the world champion. I personally think that there's a shot at that still as well. And so I'm excited to see what they have in store, and excited to see that they're not, even though I hope it doesn't negatively affect their 2022. I like that they're putting their focus on this year and really working, because I think I would have to double check, but I think if Max would win the world championship this year, he would be the youngest driver to ever win a world championship.
Oh, wow.
I believe so. I'm gonna double check myself, but yeah. So I'm excited that they're looking to do that and kind of make sure that he has at least the best opportunity. And so yeah, like Max.
Well, this does feel like a year where Man and Machine are married, in the sense that the car's fast as fuck, Max drives fast as fuck. So hopefully that's going to be his best chance at, taking that championship home.
Yeah, he looks really good. And so Max currently, he's 23 years old. The youngest F1 driver champion is Emerson Fittipaldi, who was 25 and 273 days old when he won. So,
wow.
So Max would probably be about 2 years younger than he was if he can pull that off this year.
Oh, wow. That's if he pulls it off this year. Okay.
Yeah, so he would still he would still have like another year, potentially 2 years,
right,
depending on, well, his birthday is end of September, so probably not 2 years, but he has this year plus another season, and then depending how the season falls, could potentially another, if he could like win the championship early enough on in the season and like lock it in, kind of thing.
Holy shit.
So like
what if he hat tricks, bro? The youngest driver to hat trick? That
would be pretty wild.
Because I imagine that would be a whole bunch of records, just like all wrapped up in, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like he's, one of the youngest to just win an F1 race. Like he's easily up there in that. And then to be able to win like Yeah, so he is the youngest F1 winner currently.
Right. Oh, that's awesome,
He
dude.
he won his first race when he was 18 years old and 228 days. So like
Damn.
18 and a half,
Right.
18 3/4 years old.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he has so much potential to get there and be the youngest driver champion. So I would love to see them continue to put work into the car and
Yeah.
get it to a spot where he can keep fighting Mercedes. Because, I mean, after this past weekend, Mercedes has continued to prove that they are just extremely competitive. I mean, they went
Right.
1-2 in qualies. Valtteri took the pole, took Lewis's shot at 100th career pole position away from him.
Yep. 3 different poles, 3 different drivers currently.
Yep. So
That all could change. We're still early doors, but
definitely could change. But yeah, it was a really good race. Lewis, of course, did end up being the victor. Not too far. Well, wasn't too far out ahead of Max until Max took the last pit stop to try and get the fastest lap,
right.
which he unfortunately went outside of the. Every week, man, we always have a reason to talk about it, but went outside of track limits, got his time deleted. Which he did have the fastest lap, and unfortunately had to give that point over to Valtteri. So,
what's crazy is how confident they are in that, like, end of the race, go on Red's fastest lap. Like, it's so funny how much of a sure thing it is, because Valtteri hit it, like, right before Max, and then Max hit it, even though, you know, he got it deleted. It's just so crazy how, like, rubbered in and like on reds, no gas, like all of that culminates to just them hands down fastest on the track if they're hitting the line. Like that's so funny and cool to me.
It is
in a weird way.
It's a really really cool opportunity, and like Max wouldn't have been able to go for it except for the fact that Valtteri decided to go for it. Like Valtteri had I think 29 seconds or so up on Perez, which was just enough to be a free pit stop. I think they needed about 25 to 27 seconds for a free pit. So it comes out just a couple seconds ahead of Sergio, goes for the fastest lap, which then allowed Max, who was then up by that amount of time, to pit as well. So it's always so risky, though. Like, I understand it when teams have like a decent bit, like 40 seconds or like a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly thought that Mercedes bringing Valtteri in to make a run at that was kind of risky. Like, they only had about 3 to 4 spare seconds between when Valtteri would come out of the pits and when Sergio was coming. Not that I thought Sergio was going to catch him, but that all it takes is one really bad fuck up in a pit stop, which does happen.
And we've seen it happen to Mercedes.
And Valtteri all of a sudden, even with like going for the fastest lap, probably finishes fourth. Like all it takes is one of the nuts on one of the tires not coming off and getting stuck, and they're fiddling with it for who knows how long. Ends up being like an 8-9 second pit stop instead of a 3-second one. And all of a sudden, boom, you lose 4 points.
Sure. Does that speak to the competitiveness of the championship this year, though? Because they're willing to risk that difference of points for 1 point. Like, is that how much they see Red Bull, like, you know, nipping at their heels, where they're willing to do that for the fastest lap?
It's either that.
You're right. It's a big risk.
It's either that, or I could even see, and I didn't see team radios. I'd be curious what Valtteri's team radio on the driver's side was, because I could also see it as Valtteri trying to be competitive, and after the DNF from crashing with George, being like, I need to scrape together every point I can get to stay in this drivers championship, and I'm gonna take a shot at anything I can do to try and put myself slightly closer in this drivers championship. So I could say that speaks to not only the competitiveness of the drivers and constructors championship in themselves, but also for Valtteri trying to keep himself competitive in it as well. So
yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay. But yeah, to your point, that would indicate an aligning of goals for both Mercedes and Valtteri, that they're willing to kind of put in the same efforts.
Yeah,
because you have to figure, without hearing the onboards, they were probably like, yeah, let's go for it, both of them. Very similar to Lewis when he was already finished in the shower and laying down in front of the TV saying, wait, do we go for the fastest lap too?
That was
real late on that call.
Potentially my favorite. Like, I hope that the time that they played that radio was actually like when he was saying it, and not like they were just playing a radio he had said earlier or something, because
it had to be coming in right then.
Yeah.
Because it was so frazzled, like he was still driving, like he was
Yeah.
still racing at that point.
So
that was a beautiful onboard.
Yeah, so everyone, like, definitely check out the onboard, the team radios, because what we're talking about, if you didn't catch the race and you're using us as your race recap, Lewis, when he is on the second to last lap 65 out of 66, gets told over the team radio that Valtteri had come in to pit to go for the fastest lap. And Lewis goes, should I do that too? When he wouldn't even have a warm-up lap on the tires to even be able to make a run at it. Like, the dude would come out of the pits, come around to do his hot lap, and be crossing the checkered flag.
Right. And let alone, if I remember where he was on the track correctly, like, he was right at the end of lap 65. He just passed the pit lane and was like, should we go for it?
Yeah.
Like, he had another couple laps. It's like,
and we're just like, this man is like so just in the zone racing that he's just completely unaware. Like, and it does, I do believe that had to be like accurate at that time when he said it, because there have been races last year where he finished the race and he goes, is that it? And they're like, yeah, get in there, Lewis. He's like,
right.
He's like,
right.
He's like, wait, we finished? He's like, yeah.
I'm curious if there's no worry of like overtaking or like danger in the final minutes or laps. I'm curious if like the lap number is kept from the drivers to a certain degree.
I'd be curious about that. I think of it like in track and field, like the people who are running like the 2 mile on the track,
right,
where you're running 8 laps. Like, they have a little sign for each lap that they show to the runners.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, this is lap number 6, just so you don't forget because you've gone in a circle so many times. Like,
and I would almost rather them just show me like you're on the final lap.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let me just kind of go until like I'm done, right?
Yeah.
Would there be an element of like saving pace for like another But if you don't know the laps, you can just push, and then just tell you like, oh, hey, you're done. Great job. You won. You did it.
Which is fair. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that is a driver to driver thing. Like, I'm sure there are some drivers that are very intent on, like, how many laps do I have left? How, like, can I catch this next person? Like, what, like, those
Right.
kinds of things. But then I'm sure there are some drivers that are like fucking Lando out there that they're like, hey, Lando, the next guy is 4 seconds back. He's like, shut the fuck up. Let me race.
Right,
Like,
right. Who just doesn't want to hear it at all.
yeah, so there's probably I feel like that could be a driver to driver kind of decision, which would make sense in my mind. So
Now, speaking of, to like kind of continue recapping this weekend's race, and you brought it up, Lando Norris had a great race, ended P5, way up in the points. McLaren looking really good this year. I know, we don't want to be too biased. We want to try and talk about all the teams, all the drivers.
yeah, absolutely. Lando, like he's a stud right now. Man is driving in the best form, and like I think from his side and from what I've heard from McLaren interviews and things like that, like it seems like Lando is getting the every ounce of racing out of that car. But it also sounds like they feel like they have the potential to get even more as they put upgrades in and do stuff like that. Like Lando's still hanging in there in third place in the drivers. He's had 3 great races. He's finished third, fourth, and fifth now. I love it. I love to see it.
Now, do you think he continues to level up throughout the season, like along with the car? Do you think we end in Super Saiyan Norris mode?
The way he's looking right now, I'm not going to doubt it.
Yeah.
And I think what my current expectation of him right now is, I would say he'll be 5th in the drivers.
Okay.
I think he has a shot at 4th, but probably
if he like really fucks up some races and really goes hard.
Yeah, because right now, like Lewis, Max, and Valtteri, just the fact that they're finishing top of the table when they finish, they're going to stretch their leads. So that kind of leaves the 4th and 5th place, I would think, between primarily Sergio, Perez, Checo, and Lando. Leclerc has put in some good performances as well, but I think...
Wait. Isn't Sergio and Checo the same person?
I did. Yeah, I feel like I have to say his name. Or wait, did I not say Leclerc?
No, yeah, you said Sergio twice using both of his names and then left out Leclerc.
I meant to say Leclerc.
That's what I thought you meant.
I saw the CH in Charles and just said Checo.
That's so funny.
So Sergio, Charles, and Lando probably vying for that 4th position, but I think Red Bull's car right now does look a little bit better than the McLaren, so
yeah.
I feel like that'll probably end up with Checo in 4th and then Lando 5th, but I think he has a shot at 4th. I don't think that's an unreasonable potential, so... it's exciting. And like even Ricardo like had a pretty solid race as well. He had a really, really tough qualifying, getting knocked out in Q1, which was really unexpected. Still ended up finishing in the points and having a really, really solid race. So
well, he was pushing, and every overtake that he made throughout the race, he really fought for.
Yeah, and that is the Danny Ricks, like, fucking attitude. Last year when he got that 5-second penalty and his team, when Renault told him about it over the team radio, he's like, all right, I'll go faster. Like, there was no, like, griping like some of the other drivers do when they get told, like, Kimmy being like, for what? For what? Or Lewis being like, that's not in the rules. Like,
That never happened. I've done that 1,000,000 times.
Danny's just like, head down. All right, I guess I gotta go quicker and make up for it.
Right. Or Vettel just complains.
Yeah, so all about it. Very excited for that. Another thing that like was really really exciting to me from this past race was the Alpine teams. And speaking of talking on more than just the top of the table, Alpine had not looked phenomenal through the first two races, and they had two guys up in the points, and not just like sneaking in. They had 7th and 8th this race. Or let me double check myself. Yeah, 7th and 8th.
7th and 8th.
Which is awesome. I was not expecting that car after the initial performance to jump up that quickly. Like, I think we were both surprised at the beginning of the season that the Alpine car had actually fallen that far, because Danny had gotten a couple podiums in the Renault last year, and like it's just the carryover, new team name and everything. So I think that's a better idea of where they should be, and kind of exciting to have some more mixing up of the midfield. So
the midfield of the cars getting in the points.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, it's gonna be some exciting racing coming up here in the next couple weeks and months.
Yeah.
The other team that we're looking out for and had a pretty good race was the Ferraris, with Leclerc finishing 6th and Sainz down in 11th, just out of the points. But Pierre Gasly had a great race, so no shade.
No, absolutely. That was and that was a really competitive part of that race, was Gasly and Sainz going back and forth. I think they passed each other a couple of different times.
Must have been, yeah.
And so that was fun racing to watch. And just to add another team to mention, I was very happy with even though very very far back, Mick Schumacher getting past Latifi and not having it be a 18th, 19th Haas little finale there at the end. It was kind of nice to see him being able to compete with one of the Williams cars and kind of actually get to race. I feel like the majority of the times that we've seen the Haas cars so far this season, it's either because they fucked up or because they're getting lapped. So seeing them actually, or at least Schumacher being in a spot where he could race someone that was not his teammate, was kind of cool.
Right. But by the same token, then his teammate Mazepin is getting points on his fucking license, dude. Yeah, I don't want to see that, man.
No.
And dude, and especially it was him holding up Sergio when Sergio was in the lead, because I guess there were multiple flags shown. He kind of ignored them. He did apologize and this and that. But yeah, that was really unfortunate to see, and it kind of goes to what you were talking about. I know on the last pod where he's not the most convincing rookie right now.
He's not. Like I said during the race companion and everything, I hate to fully judge him based on this year, because Haas has told everyone and their mother that they're not putting any effort into making this car any type of good.
Right.
But
3 races, though, is data.
It is. And he just, he's not competing with people. He's getting lapped 20 laps into the race he's kind of just dragging at the back, and it clearly Mick Schumacher is able to at least semi-compete, even though Latifi is not as good as George Russell in that Williams car. He's still putting in an effort, and Mazepin just kind of feels like he's just there.
Right.
And you only see him when he's getting lapped.
spot holder.
Kinda,
Yeah.
it's just not fun. Like I would like to see him be a bit more competitive, but that just, I mean, it's so early. But I just hope that he can at least look a little more competitive because it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough to watch that.
Well, it's so crazy where the front of our grid is these insane, like this combination between these insane young racers and some veterans, and then at the back it's just like, do you even belong here? Like, just the discrepancy of skill and vehicle seems really large, and not like, obviously there has to be a back marker, somebody's got to be in last, I get it, but like, does last have to be like kind of the snot-nosed kid in your gym class who, like, can't even get the ball like above the rim? It feels like it's like, what do you want? Like, I'm playing a 4v5 here. Like, he feels like that kind of position on the grid. I really want to see some improvement from like both the Haas guys, and not from, I get it, the car's not getting any better, but man, just by pure driver skill, like, there's got to be some improvements that can be made, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, and the fact that he's really not, like, he's getting super license points for being basically for being so uncompetitive. Like, he's getting points
and being
because,
a bit oblivious about it,
yeah,
right?
He's getting points because he's being lapped and not getting out of the way. Like,
Right.
it's a tough look, man.
It's a bad look. I agree.
One other, just I guess, kind of note about this past week's race, which I found very interesting, was kind of the tires and what had gone on with that. Which basically, Pirelli had picked the 3 hardest compounds of the 5 compounds that they use for their tires, and Sergio made his mediums last like 50 out of the 66 laps or something ridiculous like that.
Yep.
Like, he just stayed out on those for forever, whereas like Lewis was, I think, at lap like 16 going, "These tires are shit," over his team radio. So like, that was just a very interesting thing, seeing all the different tire strategies, and like, I thought that kind of was a little bit fun because it mixed things up a decent bit. So,
And it tells you that a bit of the tire concern is a myth. It's an actual myth.
yep. Yeah.
Right? It's like being told Santa isn't real. If you've been sold the dream that like 15 laps they have to pit, they're marbling. If you go off the racing line, they're fucked. Right?
I also kind of wonder like what it is, because there also has to be, there's going to be some variation car to car based on their setup and everything. But
And it's like the camber, how it's all tilted.
yeah, but like, what is Mercedes doing that? Because even last season, like, Mercedes had the race where Valtteri blows out a tire, and I forget
Yeah.
if he DNF'd or if he was able to make it back to the pits. I think he DNF'd that race.
I'm pretty sure he did too.
And then the same race, Lewis finishes the race on 3 tires with 1 completely blown out.
right.
Didn't happen to anyone else. So like, actually,
They've
I
gotta be
lied.
pushing so hard.
There might have been one other person who, I think Checo, actually, in the pink Mercedes, may have also had a blowout that race. So
It could have been for different reasons, though.
Possibly.
It could have been like, like debris or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you're putting too much pressure on those tires in the turns, but like still expecting it to hit the same line, like the temperature goes like through the roof.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm curious if that's what begins the like melting process of everything. Like, how else do you stay ahead of all these motherfuckers? Like you've got to be doing something like objectively wrong
Yeah.
to like keep that pace. Like you're probably hitting like the same corner just way too fast every single time, but like yanking it onto the line, right?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen how much Lewis and Valtteri fight their wheels during a race?
Oh yeah, it's a lot, and
It's an insane amount.
I don't remember if it was like that last year, but yeah,
No, they had the DOS system.
well,
They were
that's-
driving a fucking spaceship, dude.
True. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Like they definitely are fighting the car in some aspects to like get it to go that fast, which is kind of impressive too.
Well, it speaks to, it's got to speak to the like I don't really know where I was going to go with that, but like yeah, there's something about it that's like kind of funny where so drivers are able to like hold, you know, whatever third, fourth, fifth with 50 laps on their tires, but to get first you need to like, you know, you need to Lewis Hamilton your tires.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be that different of like a mentality and strategy.
Well, and that's also I think so there was another like little brief thing that I saw from Max about the fact that he has kind of quote unquote struggled with staying within track limits. And he's like, I'm not going to do anything differently than what I'm doing right now because he's only occasionally running wide, occasionally like doing that because he's pushing so hard and because he's like taking stuff like as quick as he literally as the car can literally handle basically. And sometimes that just ends up you slip a couple feet off the edge and bring it back on. So I think like it's that same mentality, I guess, that maybe Max has about that and about like staying in bounds as like the Mercedes cars have about the tires. They're like, fuck these tires. We'll get to the end of the race anyway. But like
it's two sides of the same coin. If Max didn't hit those track limits, probably his tires would be as fucked as Lewis's.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like it's just a difference in like strategy. Now, okay, let me stick this in your pipe and see how it smokes. So, Mr. Buxton has been talking about in the hypercar class of the World Endurance Championship, the LMP2s are faster sometimes than the hypercars. It's two different classes. Okay. The LMP2s are behind the hypercars. But the LMP2s are like hitting hypercar speeds. So like some people might argue that they should just be one class and then like do another shift down here or something. Okay. Right? There's like some weird stuff going on there. Now, what have the 2021 and the 2022 FIA regulation changes been about? About slowing down the vehicles, correct?
Primarily.
Why would you want to slow down vehicles? Because the cars are getting too fast for the tracks.
Yeah.
So, I think and here's the crux of it all is at what point does it become an FIA problem rather than a driver problem to stay on the track when objectively he's putting his vehicle and himself and other drivers at risk to try and shoehorn the vehicle into the track constraints that the FIA is saying, oh, you're going too far, man. What if it's actually he's only going as far as like the car is allowing him? Like, what if he feels like he has to go that far because that's just what the speed of the cars are at? So the whole time they're trying to slow down the vehicles and slow down the drivers by saying obey this and obey that and yada yada. But at the end of the day, how soon do you think it's going to be before we see, oh, this track isn't going to be in the 2022 calendar because it's, because turn 3 is under construction, turn 5 is under construction at Suzuka, we're not racing at Imola because we're adding a little to turn 1. Like, I'm guessing all of these things are coming.
I would be curious because I'm wondering, so like with the 2022 changes and all, and them using a like mixed, I think it's like mixed biofuel and regular fuel source, I'm curious to see how that affects the speeds of the cars. Like if the engines will get as good performance with the new fuel and whatnot to be able to like, I think that there are probably some other changes that the FIA is making that kind of like are almost capping out like the speeds that they can go to, so that maybe we won't get to the point where that has to happen. But that would be kind of sad in a sense that like I think we would lose a lot of the street circuits specifically, because you can't change Monaco. Like
Right.
You can't change that course to add an extra runoff somewhere. Like that's the way it is. Like you're racing on real roads and real streets and everything. So
Right.
I think that is something that is like probably taken into consideration, because also going to some of those tracks brings in the fucking money. You think about
Right.
how wealthy the people sitting there in Monaco are, and how much that probably skyrockets ticket prices and like all that other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like these people are like, oh yes, I'm gonna bring in my super yacht, dock it right here, and then I'll get my ticket into Monaco, and then I'll hit the Monaco casino and play at the small rollers table where it's 5,000 a hand for buy-in on blackjack, and it's like,
Right.
all right, like I think they have to keep some of those things being able, and some of those tracks have to be in the lineup for them to kind of make the money that they need. Like, I mean, F1's a huge sport, and I'm sure they make plenty of money, but I guarantee that there are some race weekends like that. Like, Monaco brings in more money to F1 than going to Australia. No offense to any of the fans in Australia, but...
Is it on the calendar? Like, are there races that are on the calendar every year?
Pretty much, yeah. Like,
Okay, gotcha. So then, okay. So is there a point then where we reach an impasse of the financial implications would be too strong and it's racy enough? So, like, what if that impasse creates an actual ceiling on F1 racing? Like, at a certain point, it's just like, this is where it's at. This is what we do now. Are you saying they would never change a Monaco? They would never change a Spa? They would never change a Suzuka?
So they would change some of those, but I don't ever see Monaco leaving the docket.
Oh, you don't got to leave the calendar, son. I'm not saying go away forever, bro. It would be in the vested interest of that city to uproot so much to make for a little bit of a correction.
Monaco would be tough. I mean, it's definitely possible, I guess.
Depends where you do it too. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm no city planner.
But I think also in terms of Monaco specifically, since that's the main.
You picked such a good example for a counterpoint.
They have kind of capped out Monaco already in terms of like the racing. Like that track itself is extremely difficult to pass on. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's so tight and everything that like there's definitely like it's a very tough track just because of how tight like the streets are and everything. So like I in most places on that circuit, I don't think the cars are really hitting their like
I think we
max.
lost you.
Me?
Oh,
Hello?
I can still see you now. There was a big freeze there for a second. I didn't hear a whole lot of that point.
Gotcha. But no, I was just saying I think we've kind of capped out Monaco potentially
Mm-hmm.
already because the streets are so tight. The circuit is already extremely difficult to pass on and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, a lot of people already are like, hey, qualifying is what matters the most at Monaco because
Mm-hmm.
like if you can put yourself in front, then you're probably it's going to be hard to not stay there.
The walls keep everybody behind you.
Kind of,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So
So just by virtue of these tracks being on the calendar, you think the F1 speeds will stay rather homogeneous across all the tracks to keep these big important ones in.
I think that I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I think
Okay.
if they start getting like really extreme with it, and also I think that that may also happen in terms of the like the budget caps that F1 implemented. So like
Yeah.
F1 implemented those like budget caps of how much you can spend on the cars per season and whatnot. And so I think that also limits like the team's abilities to make new parts and improve engines and things like that to a point where it might get to even like instead of going 200 miles an hour, they're going 220 miles an hour. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the FIA and Formula One are already putting in restrictions to kind of tease that back a little bit, like subtly.
And my argument is that Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, they're not going like improvements in innovation won't just stop because the FIA say, use biofuel and this and that. That's what I'm trying to get at is there's going to be a point where they're going to have to make significant changes to the tracks because no matter what the regulations are, those cars are going to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to get better innovation. They're going to get better aero. They're going to figure things out with the cars the more that they use them and the more years that they're in these different, like, Formula One, like, eras. Like, currently is, like, the
Right.
hybrid era.
Yeah. Next one's going to be the biofuel era.
I guess. I
Nice.
don't know, but yeah, it would be. I am kind of interested because that's a good thought. Like looking out, what they might have to do because I had already started thinking of that with some of the tracks they don't have like very much of a runoff space where if someone goes off of track limits, like they're crashing like 100%.
Right.
And so they're like in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, you add extra tarmac outside of the track so that if someone does, they don't like hurt themselves really bad by crashing and spinning out. But then that like plays to oh well, there's more room so you can go faster. It's like it's such a weird like
It's a fine balance.
it
It's a
is.
very fine balance. It's just like Riot like balancing their game, and all the patches and ups and downs and tweaks and knobs and jibs and jabs. It's yeah, it's tough, but like the consequences are so much more for the FIA and these tracks and the just yeah, everything involved is just so major.
It's really
Yeah, it's
honestly pretty
interesting.
impressive all the like how well it works.
It's crazy.
Like the amount of time and the rule changes and everything. I think it's also really cool that with rule changes, the FIA really goes to all the teams and talks to them about it and it's voted on by the teams and things like that. I think that's a really cool aspect of the sport as well. I know like other sports you have like collective bargaining between teams and players and like things like that, but it's kind of cool to see it on almost a smaller scale since there's only 10 teams. Like you get a better look into like the thought process behind those things.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's good to see that the teams build the league that they race in. I like that. I like that it's not rules imposed on them, and then they have to fight within that. I like that they choose they pick their poison. That's kind of cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this week, I guess we'll get to see what happens with the Spanish Grand Prix. So no off week for F1 racing this week. We've got that coming up.
Off week for the tall and short of it, though. There will be no race companion this weekend.
Yep. So sorry, everyone. Justin and I are going to just be hopping on and just kind of being more casual viewers this weekend. Well, we'll still be intently watching, but we won't be talking as much through it. But looking forward to the race. Driver's standings still super close, obviously. Lewis has a nice 69 driver's points. Max is
the best number, some would say.
Max is 8 points back with 61. And then Lando is in third right now with 37. So
pretty far back.
Ways back. So right now it is still a 2-horse race. We'll see what happens. Still pretty close though in the constructors standings as well. So a lot these early races, a lot kind of hinges on whether teams are keeping it close and not putting themselves in a bad spot for later on in the year. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I guess any other points we want to hit on before moving along to MSI and what's going on?
No, I don't think so. I'm looking at the race standings. Nothing else really sticks out. I think we hit all the all the big talking points.
Cool. So yeah, moving along to our next topic, we've got the Midseason Invitational started today. Sir. We wanted to do a little preview of some of the teams and talk about it a little bit. Justin, I guess just off the top of your head, expectations for top 3 teams. Do you have a top 3, or is it more of a like what are you prior to today? What were you thinking for the top of the board for MSI?
Prior to today, I was thinking Damwon, RNG, Mad Lions.
Okay.
Now, that was based on not a whole lot of data, basically just using historical evidence to inform my decisions.
Well, which also makes sense. I mean, Damwon was the world champions this past season, so
right.
Not really outrageous to have them at the top. And then the Chinese teams have always been very good, and they have some really solid members of RNG as well. So yeah, not too surprising with those top 2. Mad Lions. I wasn't sure what to think about them because they are obviously Europe, I would say, is probably the 3rd strongest region that's there. But they have such a young team. I was curious to see how they would do in this like tighter international competition with only kind of the top team from each region. So I was kind of personally like, obviously my heart, I've got Cloud9, but I was curious to see how Cloud9 kind of whether they were up there competitive in terms of that with Mad Lions, but I had a pretty similar thought for the top teams.
I think what gives me the edge for Mad Lions over Cloud9 was, from what I saw of Mad Lions in their finals, was the kind of the style of game that they played indicated to me that they may be better in best of ones and thrive in that like round robin environment, and then use that as a springboard into the finals, which, or not the finals, into the like the knockout stages, where I think they played well in the series that they played. I think they played well in the best of fives, but also their play style seems very suited to the best of ones, like kind of cheese strategy, just show them one thing, or like, oh, we can just use that one time, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So kind of flexible play styles to where they would be able to mix it up, not really give too much away or anything.
Right. Now, if Cloud9 sees Mad Lion, like if they meet in the knockout stage, I'm gonna give the edge to Cloud9.
I think that's a pretty good assessment in my mind, because I think also just kind of based off of the, like, having Perks and Sven with a good bit of international experience, I think is just a huge bonus in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's super helpful. But yeah, no, Mad Lions looks pretty solid. What other teams were on your kind of list? I know you had a couple that you wanted to speak on a bit more and get into a little bit. So
instead of just like doing the top of the table show, like, you know, we could talk about Showmaker, we could talk about Canyon. It's a story I think that a lot of people are going to talk about, but honestly, the one team that I was really excited to see again, just because I don't get a lot of that region, the CB LoL, is Pain Gaming from Brazil. I have very fond memories watching BRTT play. I have very fond memories watching Tinones play. They were always a great addition to the world stage, whether their team was like doing really well in the standings or not. It didn't matter. I loved the 1 year BRTT had mad shit talk for double lift,
Yep.
and he actually like came up big on it and ended up, you know, getting the better of the matchup. So, you know, gotta love a player who can, you know, dish a little out and, you know, serve it up.
Yeah.
Pain Gaming was sweet. And today's match, I think I want to talk about specifically because they went way down against the Istanbul Wildcats and like brought it back in miraculous fashion. So I think based on today's first game, I think we're going to see some good things from Pain Gaming, because it seems like they really thrive in that, you know, back against the wall. They were down like, honestly, I think they were down like 9K gold and brought it back and won the game. And it was a real nail biter. I was cheering for him the whole time. So Pain Gaming, I'm so excited to see him again. And they showed up on the first day.
Yeah, well, and I was also reminded of going through this, doing some of this kind of prepping for what was going on in the teams. I think I had said that when we had talked about Tinones before, that he had killed Faker on Ari. I don't believe that was correct. I'm pretty sure that was the game against Alliance, where Cloud9 needed Kaboom to beat Alliance for Cloud9 to advance out of groups.
Oh,
and that is
shit.
the famous, like, all the Cloud9, like, team, because they had to beat, like, Najin White, or Najin Sword or something like that, to make it out after Kaboom had beat Alliance. And so as C9's pushing the Nexus, they're like, this is for Kaboom! Like,
oh, yo, that's right.
So I'm pretty sure that the what I was thinking of was Tinone's dashing with Ari across that base wall against Alliance and Froggen and Reckless. And
Gotcha. Yes, because that was the year Frog and Super Team over in
where
EU.
Reckless left Fnatic for a year and then went right back to Fnatic.
Oh, geez, that's right. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
that's the play. That was the Ari
so that's what
Spirit Rush.
I believe that's what I was thinking of with Tinones. But no,
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate the correction. That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, Tinones, BRTT, Pain Gaming, like they look like they're going to be a fun team to watch, man. Like
Yeah.
the it's really cool because I think they were talking about it on the dive or actually it might have been Thorin because of CS:GO, but Brazil is such a huge CS:GO like region where everyone is so big on them. Their fans just in general seem super like fanatical in the best way for
Oh yeah.
for their teams. So it's cool seeing them be up there and be able to be competitive. And like I'm kind of I kind of want to see some reaction stuff from the Brazil crowds back home. Like if they've
Oh,
got
they're probably going crazy. They're probably going crazy. I'm telling you, the comeback was insane. It was amazing.
yeah, and so I'm gonna have to definitely take a look at catch up on that game because the only game I with work was able to see was the C9 game, but yeah, awesome, and I'm very excited for them. But there was what the other team you were talking about that you're curious was Pentanet.gg.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Pentanet is Oceania.
Something like that, which I believe so, but I'm still a little like semi confused because I thought the Oceania like league had gotten canceled essentially, which is why
Well,
North America
it probably got
was
absorbed into something.
well because I was under the impression that it was like Dunzo, which was why like people like Fudge, who's from Australia, like are not counted as imports in NA. Like I thought the Oceanic players were like no longer considered imports in North America because the Oceanic League was so that like caught me off guard. But
I see what you're saying. Okay.
yeah, so
Interesting.
I'm not really sure because the OPL is what I
Oh, it's the LCO now. Same region, new cast.
gotcha. So now it's the okay.
LCO.
It's the League of Legends Circuit Oceania,
Yeah, okay. We're learning. We're learning here on the fly, people.
but the OPL was what they had gone away from, I guess. So
Gotcha. And that's where Pastry Time used to cast for.
yes,
Gotcha. All right. We know our shit.
so that's why I think I was like slightly confused seeing a team that was from like Oceania when I was under the like the way that everyone had made it sound with them not being counted as imports in North America anymore, like not being the OPL anymore. I think I had just in my mind been like, oh, it's gone, and they're just like letting these players like free for all for wherever they want to go, kind of thing.
Just like they did back in the day in the mental institutions.
Exactly.
Be free, my butterflies.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
Not
Okay.
the one that I was in, but
For nice. By the way. For Pentanet.gg, I'm not sure really what my thoughts are, but I know that I want to talk about them. And my initial reaction is I think if you want to make a name for yourself on the world stage as a League of Legends player, I don't think it's by having bright green hair. I don't think that's the way you get remembered. We remember Faker for that sick ninja roll that he did.
yeah,
but
nothing else.
But that's the only thing. we remember players for their plays, what they do in the game. So I hope that wasn't just something that he did like for the tournament, but it looks pretty fresh and green. So I have a feeling that he did. Now, why does that bother me? It bothers me because in both of the games, I saw that man shut his fucking mouth. Okay, what does that really mean? What I'm getting at is Pabu, their jungler, the player that was like hyped for the team. Like, oh, if they're winning, it's when they play through Pabu. He just gets the lanes rolling. Everybody loves Pabu. Come and pet Pabu. Like, just give Pabu the ball, and Pabu's going to score. By the way, I would like to talk about how Pabu did not score at all. In the first game, he was part of 0 kills. His team only had 1, but he wasn't there for it. And then in the Royal Never Give Up game, he assisted all 4 of the kills. So good for him. But that was on jungle Fiddlesticks. A pick that I can't imagine we're going to see anybody else playing. It's so slow. On top of, at the same time, he's playing that against... I'm pretty sure Sky is the... No, not Sky. That's the wrong fucking name. Who's the jungler for Royal? Way, thank you.
He was on Rumble.
And he was on Rumble, like, who is now, like, top tier. Everybody wants him because the new picks. And fucking Pabu and the squad are like, hey, let's play this Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, it seemed kind of like, so that actually, I did catch some snippets of other games, but Cloud9 was the only game that I fully saw. So that one was, apparently Fiddlesticks is a decent pick currently.
It seemed in the team fights like it was super useful.
Yes.
The clear was really fucking slow, though. And when people are playing fucking Udyr and they're going to play Hecarim and Rumble's like not that fast, but the Scrap Shield gives them the movement speed.
No. That's the thing, is like Rumble's clear is
super fast.
Good, because he can, like, with the multi minion camps, he can just sit there, flame spitter them to death really easily with his scrap shield up and take very little damage and clear really quickly. He's not having to, like, that's also kind of another reason that Kindred is good, is with the hop and hitting multiple targets with it. Like, you can clear camps pretty quickly and you have that mobility. Like, Fiddlesticks is great for team fighting, but against a Rumble, you are going to lose 95% of the time because you're going to get what happened to him. You're going to get beat in terms of clear speed, and then they're going to start invading you. And what's a Fiddle supposed to do against an invade, against a Rumble? Like fucking life drain and try and life steal away from the guy who's just burning you to death?
Right, and the last thing you really want to do is stand on top of the flame spitter, the ult, just everything. So and that's just like the picks, let alone him not getting any kills. He just like wasn't really there. And the one thing that I saw from him and that team, and this is just on the premise of like him being the star player and like yada yada of what they built up, was the fact that, dude, there were moments in the game where, like, they were showing the face cam of him, like, after they just got, like, demolished, or he got wrecked, or, like, something bad happened, and his mouth was not moving at all. And from pro players from these teams, like, you cannot do that.
No,
like,
you can't shut down. That's
and that is 100% what he did in both games. Like, it went south and he just clammed up like crazy, and it was game over. And that is just like not what I want to see on the international stage. It's like, what, like, they're not the same. Dom Juan and them are not the same.
Yeah. and it's like not necessarily to a fault of themselves in terms of other teams just having better players, but you can't like let that get in your head, especially in their group specifically, because the Vietnamese team couldn't make it to MSI because of visa issues.
Yeah.
They have already played both teams in their group, and they have to play both of those teams 2 more times. If you're already in your head after the first day when you have to play these other teams 2 more times, like you're just that's not going to be conducive to performing well the rest of the tournament. And like you need to be able to have some semblance of trying to bounce back. Like I thought it was cool the first game when they played RNG, what they tried to do with the comp. Like they tried some weird picks. They picked that Lee Sin mid. They picked the Fiddlesticks and
that got the first blood. I thought that was in there, bro.
Yeah.
And he looked good on it too. That was a good play. It was heads up, went over the wall, displayed good mechanics.
The Lee Sin mid is like I see why it's being a strong pick, but like you can keep doing that, keep trying like new strats and cool things, but if you don't have the communication, you're not like doing that on that end, it doesn't matter how crazy of a strat you pull out, you're not going to be successful if you can't get that together in your head. And like
exactly.
Yeah, that's tough.
And that's why I wanted to use him like as a vessel like to talk about that team, because you're right. They're in the 3-team group, and they're going to be in a position where if their jungler is shutting down, like they're going to go 0-6.
Yeah.
They're going to go 0-6, and that's just going to be RNG, UOL. RNG through, and UOL gets a free buy.
Yeah, and I like to see competitiveness. Like, I mean, even and so I guess talking on that point a little bit. So, Travis Gafford Industries interviewed Fudge after their games. I watched this video while I was eating dinner tonight. So they interviewed Fudge, and he was talking to him a little bit, asking him about like having perks on the team, and like he's like, oh, does his like word carry more weight than, or like does he give you guys pep talks and things like that? And Fudge is like he's like, he doesn't really give us pep talks, but like when we're losing in scrims or when we're losing like against Dalmon, like he's like perks when he says stuff, it just feels better. He's like he'll say things like, oh, in this position anyone's going to lose this game, or oh, in like if we had gotten this fight or whatever, then we're in a really good spot, and things like that. And he's like, just saying those things kind of changes the atmosphere of the team, even though it's not giving a lot of productive, like, oh, like we needed to do this and this. He's like, well, like if we didn't make that mistake, or if we like played this team fight better or whatever, like things could be very different and we could be in a better spot to win. And like that's what you need when you're losing, like, and you need someone who's kind of that voice of reason, like, hey, don't take it to heart, like we're playing one of the best teams in the world, which is something that Pabu against RNG could easily have been like saying, like, hey, this is one of the best teams at this tournament, one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah.
Don't get down. Like, keep doing our thing, and we can maybe pull off an upset here or there. And that, like, that attitude is huge. So
and it's such a big difference. To where, like, you know, it's just like we were talking about in F1, the difference between the top of the table and the bottom of the table in this what's going on right now. It's a discouraging discrepancy, honestly, is what I'll say.
Yeah, huge disparity in that, which I was hoping we wouldn't see in this, like, as much.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I knew there was going to be some of it because
exactly. There always is. There always is with the fucking small regions,
which is
and
why
they're not.
Worlds has the play-in stage, because it gives those teams an opportunity to kind of warm up, to show their stuff against teams that they can be more competitive, and to potentially pull off an upset here or there.
Right. But you're never going to be the Pain Gamings of the world if like you can't like put yourself in a positive mental.
How easy would it have been? You said Pain Gaming was down 9,000 gold or something like that.
I mean, that may have been embellishing. It could have been like 7. It was probably 7K, like to be reasonable. But yeah, even 7,000 gold in like today's meta with today's champions, like you're gonna get beat by any other team. You're gonna get smashed.
Yeah, like it. That's, you have to have that like mentality of like any game's winnable. Like you just have to.
Yeah. And like I'm so big on communication. Like, you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, like you'll know that it's such an important part of any like of anything we talk about, where you have to have like the same expectations, the same goals, go in with a game plan and be able to talk about that game plan. And that's just not it. When if you just like something bad happens, you clam up, like you can't even look to your teammates for comfort. That's got to be a rough spot to be. And like I hate to say it, but that's going to be an 06 squad at the end of these weeks.
I, based on how it's gone so far, would not be surprised, which sucks. It feels bad. Like I like bad, man. I like the smaller regions performing well. I guess we'll see how things go in the coming days, but I definitely hope that things look a little bit better for them.
Now, as we get farther into the tournament, what teams are you going to be looking at? What storylines are you going to be following?
So I think the biggest ones, obviously, I think everyone is looking at RNG and Damwon to win their groups and everything. I am curious about how Gillette Infinity can do against Damwon and C9. I'm curious to see like kind of how that matchup goes, if they can put in some good performances and everything, because they have White Lotus. White Lotus was kind of the stud 80 carry from a smaller region that really stood out last year at Worlds. A name that probably a lot of people who follow League of Legends have heard from that and how hyped up he was. So I'm kind of excited to see him and how he performs, and to kind of see if any of those like probably third or fourth
Craig
teams
left.
can. Oh,
unexpectedly disconnected.
Sorry, folks. Small technical difficulties with Craig.
Now recording.
And he's back.
Welcome back.
So yeah, with those teams that could like maybe pull off some upsets, I'm curious to see how they perform. Like the other thing, honestly, Cloud9, I know they're my boys. I know I probably am, or I know I am biased, but I was kind of impressed with how they performed against Damwon. I kind of expected them to get clapped a little bit harder than they did. And they looked pretty strong early game and then ended up losing the later game pretty decently and in a quicker fashion. But the way that they played early on, I would not be shocked if in their next go around with Damwon, if they could take a shot at a win there.
And that's going to be huge. That's going to be so big, because if they go up 1-2, or if they go up 1-1 in that head-to-head, that gets them out of the groups.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't see them getting 2-0'd by Gillette Infinity or Detonation Focus Mate. Like, I can't imagine that happening. And so I'm curious to see, because, like, I think also, like, Fudge, from watching his interview and from, like, seeing him play, he seems to grow very quickly in terms of his skill and kind of how his awareness of, like, how he plays. I mean, we saw him get absolutely beat down by Someday in the tournament at the start of the LCS season, in the lock-in tournament, and then by playoffs, he was kind of bodying Someday, or at least staying even to slightly up on him. So I think it's a really cool opportunity for him with how quickly he kind of levels himself up to get to play against Khan, who's, I think most would consider, like, the best top laner in the world. The other storylines, I'm kind of curious about Unicorns of Love. Like, I know they only played Pentanet this first day, but they seem pretty decent. Like, like, and Lodic is another one of those 80 carries that has been talked about a bit, but their whole team seemed to be pretty cohesive, on the same page, and rolling. So I'm curious to see a little bit more of them and kind of how they perform here. They only had the one game today, but they get to play against RNG tomorrow.
Do they have a back-to-back tomorrow?
No, RNG has the back-to-back, actually.
Gotcha,
So RNG
okay.
plays Pentanet first game, and then second game plays UOL.
Gotcha.
So that might even be a little bit better for Unicorns of Love in terms of that matchup. I don't necessarily expect them to win, but if RNG might be a little bit out of sorts playing back-to-back games against different teams, that would be interesting to
if there was like a prep trap in a way where, like, you know, they spent all their time with one team, didn't for the other, or they just don't give a fuck and they're just gonna play their style anyway.
Yeah, or even RNG just being, like, kind of in the zone for the first game and then, like, having to switch up so much to play against a whole different team the next game. Like, that could probably throw a lot of people off their game, at least slightly. I don't expect it to, like, hugely impact RNG to any extremes, but, like, you never know.
I'll say this, though. If they don't make Royal get up in between the games, okay, no, I'm dead serious. Okay, so if you watch the stream, the players, just like old LCS, they're bringing their mouse and their keyboard and any peripherals that they like to have, they bring them to the stage, right?
Right.
And then when you're done, you take them and leave.
Yeah.
I've watched multiple players be fucking with their shit, like, hardcore. Like to the degree that it appears as though they can't get comfortable. So I might argue that the teams that have the back-to-back that get to just stay put, like, they have time in, they've gotten comfortable, their seat's at the right height, they know where their mouse wants to be. Dude, I watched the mid laner. I'm pretty sure it was from PSG Talon or Infinity. It was one of those teams. Like, he was fucking with his mouse and his mat like crazy.
Damn.
And that does not, like, that's not what you want to be focusing on right before you're going up against Damwon or Cloud9 or Royal Never Give Up. You don't want to have to worry about your fucking keyboard.
No, 100%.
And that goes to the like, stage jitters, you know, used to Worlds, like, been there before, that whole thing, because it is obvious who has been there before and who hasn't.
Well, and it's also another, I think that comes even more heavily into play in terms of now with the pandemic, with so many of the league games being played from home or home office or whatever, essentially.
Right.
Like, you really can
You're way out your element.
Yeah, like you some of these guys have potentially never played on stage before, really.
Some of these guys have never been outside. Like, dude, seriously.
So
the fans are unreal.
That's something that actually would not surprise me if it lets someone kind of get a little more comfortable. Like, it's funny because even
way more comfortable, I'm thinking. Like, well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about that because, like, I used to play, like, when you and I played League and everything, I was playing on a laptop. Like, everything was the same spot every time because it couldn't go anywhere. But, like, now with my desktop setup and everything, I've got my keyboard here. And so for podcast days, I've got my keyboard, like, parallel to me. Like, it's
gotcha.
It's like straight across so that I can type easily and everything. When I'm playing Valorant, when I'm playing Call of Duty or whatever, my keyboard goes from, I'll use my phone, my keyboard goes from being like this to like that.
Yeah, you have it
tilted. I have it diagonal across my desk because it's just more naturally comfortable that way.
Right. You're like a CSGO pro, dude. That's what they do, man. They've got, like, all sorts of, like, crazy...
Dude, it's funny because I, like, hadn't even thought about it until there's a streamer who I was watching who plays Call of Duty, or who was playing Call of Duty a lot, and he had it, like, his keyboard was, like, inverted. Like, almost like instead of his keyboard had rotated all the way to be like this, where his hand is like clawed.
That's so crazy.
And I was just like, when I saw that and people started saying things like that, or like talking about it on his stream and in his chat and everything, I'm like, that is wild. And then I tilted my keyboard a little bit and I'm like, oh, that's really comfortable.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I definitely get what you mean in terms of, like, comfortability and
dude, and, like, that's what I'm saying. If I don't know, I don't think they're making them get up and swap sides. I'm pretty sure they're just letting them sit down, sit in the same, like, at the same desk.
It probably depends. No, I feel like they wouldn't because of, like, COVID and everything.
Oh yeah, they're going to have them just stay.
Yeah, because I was gonna say maybe it depends, blue side, red side, whatever. But no, they're just gonna lock them in. So yeah, they're
just gonna lock them in. Like, and I'm probably making them like a mountain out of a molehill, but it seems like a shadow advantage. It seems like a shadow buff.
The little difference is like. There's still differences. They can definitely impact things, so.
Exactly. Seating diff. Talk about that. Use that diff, you fucking casters.
Yeah.
It's their seat diff, dude. They didn't have to get up. Yo, I'm going to feel so vindicated if they talk about that on the cast.
That guy's gaming chair is just better, dude.
Dude, it's a gaming chair diff, man. DX Racer versus everything else.
Oh, I would lose that hardcore.
Yeah, mine's not good.
I have, like, an office chair.
That's what's up. Well, mine's an office chair, too. It's just not comfortable.
No, not, like, mine's like a... It's hard to explain. So, what I used to have was a foldable metal chair that had a padded seat and a padded back. Like, literally what you would find at, like, a conference somewhere. Where there's
what's up.
We put like 300 of these just side by side. That's what I had, and now I have like it's stationary, but it's like it's an office chair. It's like flat back, flat seat, metal legs, locked in.
Hell yeah, dude. That sounds super comfy.
It's surprisingly not as bad as you'd think, but
okay. All
right. But who knows? Maybe it's contributing to my back pain. You never know.
Could be.
But yeah, so looking forward to the upcoming games. We've got 6 more games tomorrow. I'm happy League of Legends is back. Like, it's fun. It's fun to talk about, fun to watch. So I hope everyone's tuning in. They start at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So hopefully, if you're West Coast, you're happy to get up at 6 a.m. to watch League.
Yeah, that'd be a brutal start. But I only have one appointment tomorrow, so I'll miss the first game, I'm pretty sure. But after that, I'll be able to catch them all. Like a Pokemon trainer.
Gonna miss Pentanet, man.
That's okay. You're not missing much.
So, lots of games still to go. We'll keep everyone updated with the next episode, where things are at, what things are looking like. Because by next episode, we'll have completely finished all the group stages. So,
yeah.
we'll be able to give some more insight where things are at, what things are looking like going into stage 2 of the tournament.
Hell yeah, that'll actually be kind of exciting. Damn, like 5 days of games straight?
6.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yep, Thursday through Tuesday, baby.
Nice. Big League of Legends.
Yep, and then
That's what we like.
Fridays, then it goes Friday through Tuesday the next week, and then it goes to
and those are the series, right?
No, that's like the second group. The way they have it set up.
Oh, the second round robin.
It's like the second round robin. They'll have that, and then the following, so May 21st, 22nd, will be the semifinals. Best of 5 series, and then that Sunday, May 23rd, will be the finals. So
gotcha. Okay, I understand.
So tons and tons of League of Legends coming up. Tune in. You'll be happy you did.
You won't be mad that you did.
Exactly.
But you'll be upset if you didn't. So please do.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Pumped about it. Also, very excited to be looking at your Kess deck.
Little magic talk to round out the episode. Let me swap to my other setup here. Give me a second.
Yep. So Justin's gonna start shifting over. So for Kess, we've got a tri-colored deck. So we've got blue, black, and red. Which is interesting because we haven't really had as many, I think, black mana in a lot of the decks that we've gone through. So this will mix up some of the cards that we're looking at. A lot of instants and artifacts and sorceries. So a lot of cards that you're playing other than creature cards, but I guess we'll get it. Well, I know we'll get into that a bit more. So I'm curious, kind of the kind of win conditions, play styles of this deck, whether or not it will be creating a lot of creatures, which is very common with black decks. So having that mixed in will make it a little interesting. Justin, can you flip the camera real quick? Like, do the little tilty thing.
Like one of these guys?
Yes, sir. That's what we're looking for.
Perfect.
So,
can you hear me all right?
Yep, hear you great. So
awesome.
Talk to me a little bit. Kess, the Dissident Mage, blue, black, and red.
All right, so we've got a blue, a black, and a red for a 3/4 human wizard. She's got flying. She says, during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. That just means if you were to use this ability, when you use the ability, exile the thing. Right, one and done. But that you're getting to use your stuff twice. Now, in the deck, you had noted not too many creatures, but we are playing a lot of instants and a lot of sorceries.
Yep.
The reason that we don't have a lot of creatures is we want to be able to hit a critical mass of instants and sorceries in our graveyard to use to like generate our value.
Okay.
So a lot of them basically just say like, look at the top few cards, choose one, and put it into your hand or draw a card or whatever.
Yep.
Those are just cantrips to try and fix our draws and get closer to the cards that we want to be at.
Gotcha.
Now, first, I would like to talk about the mana pool.
Okay.
So, even though we are in red and black, we have a lot of lands that are islands. And the reason, and not just like the basic islands, but also like Watery Grave, Volcanic Island, Underground Sea, Sunken Hollow.
So these are all differently
Steam Vents.
named islands. They are not
They're all
generic islands.
Right, but also they are like even the dual lands, like they count as an island. They have the land type. So that matters for a card like High Tide. So it's 1 blue instant, says until end of turn, all islands produce an additional blue when tapped for mana. It's a ritual, basically. It's doubling all of my mana. So, not all of it, most of it, hopefully most of it. So we tried to put as many islands in the deck as possible and having it basically be base blue to do our best to when we draw into High Tide, it's max efficiency. Now, High Tide's not all that important, but it is the main reasons for like why the mana looks the way it does. Also, we're not too focused on the black. We mainly wanted to be, so you could easily do a storm deck with red and blue, and that would be fine. But, and that was my initial, my initial conception. But I wanted to add black for Bolus's Citadel. So it's 3 black, black, black for an artifact that says you may look at your library anytime, and you may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. Tap, sack 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. So, a lot of the deck is focused on being able to get to a Bolus's Citadel and then use our life as an unfair resource to just cast through a bunch of our deck. It's not going to take too many cantrips, too many draw card spells before, we hit what we want or one of the many tutors in the deck.
Gotcha. So also in that sense, because of Kess's ability, you can, so with Bolus's Citadel, once you use it, does it just tap, or would it go to your graveyard once it's used?
The card on the top of my library that I cast using Bolus's Citadel then hits the graveyard, and then I'm able to cast the next spell or play the next card that's on the top of my library. So you can just go through them like crazy.
Gotcha.
And Bolus's Citadel isn't going to tap unless you want to use its activated ability.
Gotcha.
To make your opponents lose the 10 life.
So you can just literally get it out on the field and just play card after card from the top of your deck as much as you want.
And for very cheap. There are some cards in the deck that have a pretty high mana cost, but we'd only need 1 or 2 of those, and we're well on our way to winning the game. But most of them are 1, 2 mana, 3 mana spells that aren't gonna hurt our life total too much.
Okay.
So, with having said a lot of these things, the strategy of the deck, very similar to Kaikar, is to kind of set up a storm victory on either mine or an opponent's turn, being that we can play at instant speed for a good amount of it.
Gotcha.
We only have the creatures that are most relevant to us. So Baral and the Goblin Electro Man, making them cost less. Effectively, if you have these on the board, you get a 1-mana Demonic Tutor. You get like a 2-mana or 1-mana Jeska's Will. Like, these things are just would be absurd. Magus of the Will is a creature copy of a card called Yawgmoth's Will that lets us use our graveyard again. It's like a backup version of Kess, kind of.
Okay.
A lot of times in the strategy, if you're casting Kess, it's because you're trying to go again, where one of your opponents have stopped you. So it's like to get back your Demonic Tutor, get back your this, or get back your that to try and go again.
Gotcha.
Now, when I say go, are we doing? How does this deck win the game? Well, if you'll notice, we use the very generic name of Frozen Breach for the deck. Frozen Breach is in reference to a 2-card combo that is Brain Freeze, which is an instant, 1 and a blue. It says target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Storm. Storm says, when you play this spell, copy it for each spell played before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So, let's say that you're able to cast 100 spells before you cast Brain Freeze. You're going to mill somebody for 303 cards. Mill, you put your library into your graveyard. And then what happens if an opponent tries to draw a card when they have no cards in their library?
They lose.
They would lose the game. Right.
So gotcha.
The point is generate a critical mass of storm count where you'd be able to mill out everybody's deck. Normally 300 would be fine. 10,000 would be fine too. But you get a big Brain Freeze and mill everybody out and then pass the turn. And then they lose.
Gotcha.
Now, how do we do that though? Because that's easier said than done, let's say. All right, so one of the big enablers of this, if you reference the enchantment section, we have a little innocuous card called Underworld Breach. 1 and a red for an enchantment. It says each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. That clause often does not matter because you've won on the turn that you cast it. So, effectively what Underworld Breach is saying is, hey, you can cast things from your graveyard, but if you want to cast them, you have to exile 3 other cards from that graveyard to help pay for the cost. Okay. How do we get all of those cards into my graveyard to fuel the continued casting of cards from my graveyard? How might one do that?
So I'm assuming there are ways to tutor, sack cards, things like that in the deck. Is that...
Well, you could use Brain Freeze. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into her graveyard. So I start with myself to start the storm count going.
Gotcha.
And then the Underworld Breach allows us to then cast other value pieces. If I need to Demonic Tutor again, we can do it again. If I have to Merchant Scroll, Mana Geyser, Jeska's Will again, we can do it again. Now, importantly, Underworld Breach does not make us exile the card that we're casting with Escape. It'll go right back into the graveyard. So there's little value loops that you can do, and you start repeating some stuff that can be pretty broken. But the general idea is we want to set up, if you reference the artifact section, we have an Isochron Scepter. Isochron Scepter effectively is going to allow us to untap all of our mana rocks, so all of our artifacts that say tap for 3, tap for 2, tap for whatever. It's going to basically allow us to infinitely untap them to generate a whole bunch of mana, generate a whole bunch of storm count, so that's another way to do it. All for the main goal of getting that Brain Freeze, a massive Brain Freeze, targeted at my opponents. And the ways to generate the storm aren't manual. We use repeatable combos.
Gotcha. So you're using the ability to copy sorceries, copy instants, things like that, to play those throughout to be able to drop that brain freeze.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the critical mass of the instants and sorceries allows us just to do it as quickly as possible, where most of the cards aren't a dead draw. They're either a part of the combo, a way to go look for a part of the combo, or something that helps us cast the combo for a little bit cheaper, all of which are super important.
Gotcha.
Now, if anybody's played Magic before, I'm sure they're pretty familiar with the Frozen Breach combo. It's pretty common nowadays, and then you a lot of times you'll use Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation. That part of it, I think, would push the deck a little too far. I'm not sure my play group would like to see those. So we play with infinite mana, we play with, an infinite storm count, but we're not using the usual win condition to kill our opponents. Again, there wouldn't be anything that's shuffling their libraries back when it hits the graveyard, so the brain freeze is a safe bet usually. But yeah, now, like we've been doing, let's do some sample hands. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's see. Let's see what you got. I know you were kind of you drew a hand right at the start before we started the pod, and it sounded like,
well, just so I didn't have to waste time,
Yeah, and it worked out from what it sounded like decently well. So I'm curious to see what we've got here to get rolling.
So we look at our first 7, and we have a couple of pretty good pieces. So we have 2 lands fixing for all 3 of our colors. We have red, blue, black. We have a mana rock here as well. So effectively, we have 3 mana in hand. We have a storm card that we can use to win. Target player loses 2 life, and I gain 2 life. Storm. So we have an outlet for our storm count when we generate it. We have half of the Isochron combo. We have a way to reduce my instants and sorceries, and we also have a nice little draw card, Scry 2, nice little cantrip in our hand to dig a little deeper. I'm inclined to keep this. Our play group does a Scry one, so we're going to Scry. We're going to see what's on top. It says Mystical Teachings. Search your library for an instant card or a card with flash, reveal it, put it into your hand. I think in this spot, being able to go tutor for an instant card seems pretty useful, so I think we'll keep that on top. We will keep this hand. Let's play it out just a little bit. So what do you say? We draw for multiplayer. I think we would start on Volcanic Island, tap it for a blue, cast a Serum Visions. We draw a card. That's not what we want to see. And then we scry 2. These are not really what we want to see. So it was a decent starting hand, although what we kind of see on top isn't that great. So I think what we would do is put these on the bottom with the scry and hope for a better draw come next turn. So we would untap, we would draw for our second turn, and there is our brain freeze. So that is pretty useful. That's likely what we would have gone for the Mystical Teachings. And so we can play a swamp, cast the Izzet Signet, we're ramping a little bit, and then we'll go one more draw. So we untap and draw for turn. We have more mana. I think that would be a great start to a game. We'd be able to make the Fellware Stone, probably make a Brawl as well to start making things cheaper. So that would be right where we want to be for this deck, so that's awesome. Let us try one more hand. Aaron, do you have any questions as I shuffle up for the second hand?
Not really off the top of my head. I think the only thing, so with scrying, you don't have the option of keeping the cards. Could you split them up and like bottom one and keep the other? Yes. Or would you? Okay.
You can. Or if I just wanted to like oh, the second card is better than the first, I like both of them. With Scry, you're able to change how they go back.
Gotcha.
Even if you don't bottom them. So like a Scry 3, you can change the order of the cards.
Did not realize that.
Yep. So we got a good shuffle here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Flip the top card for the Scry 1. We got to Beseech the Queen. So black, 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 go search your library for a card. I'm going to be inclined to keep that. Let us see what is in our hand, though. We've got a counterspell. Hopefully a draw 5 or 6 with a windfall. We have 1 land, Thousand Year Storm, and a Dockside Extortionist, plus another land. Both of which cannot make black. We do have a Gilded Lotus. That's on 5 mana, though. What would we do with this hand? It doesn't do a whole lot. We don't even have the red mana for the Dockside. We're pretty far from the Gilded Lotus.
And you don't
basically
really
we'd be hoping for...
Yeah.
We'd be hoping for like a 2-mana rock, like a 2-mana signet, and then just windfall and hope for like another good hand. And honestly, not being able to cast this tutor, I'm inclined to just ship it away, go to my second free 7.
All right.
And we'll hopefully get a better draw there. I'd be worried that if you kept a hand like that, it just wouldn't do anything. I didn't even have the red mana for the 1 counter spell that I had. So even keeping a slow hand, I wouldn't be able to disrupt their game plan at all. Yeah, so that would have been an unfortunate game state to be a part of. Let's hope for a really good shuffle here. We're going to get the nuts. We're going to get a turn 1 victory. I don't think this deck can do that, actually. I'm just kidding.
So what kind of turn would you typically expect this to be a victory at if you can get the pieces? Like, would this be like a 6 or 7 turn or 5 turn, or what kind of...
I'm pretty sure the quickest I've been able to assemble the pieces was like turn 6. Gotcha. I think that was the fastest I was able to do it. And then I think that was in a 3-player pod. So in a 4-player pod, you could probably expect like maybe turn like 8 or 9, honestly. Unless, you're getting like a good run of tutors and then you can just like bang, bang, thank you, ma'am. It doesn't run like a million of them though. So,
a little tougher depending on the draws.
Yeah.
So, but still within that range of playgroup kind of time frame of 10 and a half turn victory.
All right. So this is an interesting hand. So we've got 2 lands plus 1 on top, fixing for our black, and it would come in untapped because we have the mountain. But we also have Miscast plus Swerve, 2 good pieces of interaction. We have High Tide plus Turnabout, which are 2 like rituals effectively. They're just going to really increase our mana by an exponential amount. And then we have Dramatic Reversal, which helps us with the combo. I'm inclined to keep this hand. It has interaction in the early game. It has 1 part of a combo piece that we need, and ways to generate a lot of mana. And if we get to Kess, we can reuse them. So it's not doing a whole lot, but with a couple of good draws and maybe changing the target of a key spell to me, like, Ian goes to draw 6 and I say, no, I'd rather draw 6. We may be able to find what we need. So I'd be inclined to keep a hand like this. This has some good interaction.
Awesome.
Now, let's draw for turn. Let's play our mountain first, and then we can even, or our island first, and we can even hold up this miscast. Maybe somebody plays like a tutor early in the game. We can just say no to that right away. So just for shits and giggles, let's say Ian goes to turn 1 vampiric tutor. we're going to be able to say no to that with the miscast. We've got 1 card in our graveyard. We're going to untap, draw for our turn 2. That's beautiful. So we draw a Mishra's Bauble. That's what we really like to see. So we're going to put the mountain down. That's going to hold up Swerve, and we're going to play the Mishra's Bauble. Now, the Mishra's Bauble will let us look at the top card of target player's library and then draw a card at the beginning of next turn. So we're going to crack that. We're going to look at the top card, and we see that it's a land. So on the next turn, we're going to go draw a card. It's going to pass to us, and then we draw a card for our turn. Let's see what we got. We got some more lands, which we wouldn't really like to see, but it gets us to Kess, and it gets us some things in our graveyard. So I'm not too mad at a 7 keep like that. I think that was perfectly fine.
Awesome.
So that's kind of a quick rundown on my Kess Dissonant Mage Commander deck. A storm-focused victory has a lot of the big stuff in it, man.
Awesome. Very cool. Another kind of different way of victory. I know we've kind of seen some of the storm and things like that before, but another cool combo of cards that it continuously like blows my mind kind of how many different interactions these cards can potentially have with each other.
Oh, there's so many, man. Right.
And kind of how specific yet vague like the abilities of them are in terms of how they can be played. It's a very cool thing overall.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the deck techs, because I definitely do enjoy going through them.
Absolutely, it's very, very cool. So continuing to do that, of course, I am looking forward to. But my friend, do we have anything else off the top of your head that you wanted to hit on or get into before we wrap things up?
The only thing that I wanted to say, and this is to the viewers. I know this past Sunday with our race companion, hopefully we're going to be seeing a lot of new faces on the channel. We're already seeing some of them, so welcome all to the tall and short community. Just me and Aaron here for now, and a couple other individuals, but hopefully soon we'll see our community grow a little bit more. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to all the new listeners. We love to have you here, and hope you enjoy the ride with us, because we definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, that was all I wanted to add to this week's episode there, Aaron.
No, I mean, I just want to echo Justin's point. It's extremely exciting to see some new people joining in on the conversations. We are looking forward to continuing to make or put out these podcasts and race companions. It's something that we really enjoy doing and are glad that other people are enjoying it with us as well. So.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So to everyone listening, we would just like to say thank you. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Really helps us out. And that has been the tall and short of it, everybody. Peace out.
Catch you next time.